I'd like to recognize a gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you calling the hearing today. I can't help but think we've gotten sidetracked a little bit. The purpose of this hearing is not to hear stories that obviously every single person in this chamber can tell us about how important these funds were. I mean, my God, everybody can talk about how we desperately needed this program. We're here to talk about the fact that fraud occurred. Let me just redirect, pull us all back, and let's just direct in the right direction, get the facts. I would just like to correct a few things, I guess. The President last night said he's added 12 million jobs, the greatest in history. Well, he got rid of 10 million jobs because of what we did during the pandemic. It's just actually recapturing them. So let's get to the facts. Let's be true. And we talk about the unemployment rate. Yeah, it's low. But our workforce participation rate now is lower than it was in January 2020, to the tune where more than 2.5 million people are not working today who were working in January of 2020, hence the need for workers everywhere. That doesn't even add in the 18 million individuals who are now receiving Medicaid benefits, who, because President Biden, who has said the pandemic was over, continues the public health emergency where no state is allowed to audit its Medicaid rolls. So that's over 20 million people that we're talking about that should be back in the workforce and actually contributing to Social Security, contributing to Medicare. We'd love to get those people back. And so we're here today to talk about fraud. And sadly enough, fraud occurs. It's not a Republican problem. It's not a Democrat problem. It's an American problem. It is the fact that when money flows freely, people take advantage of it. Period, point blank. In North Carolina, a citizen from the Republic of India alleged that they obtained $40,000 in pandemic unemployment insurance for North Carolina residents, which, by the way, anybody who's in the Embassy of India, by the way, in the District of Columbia can vote. Just as an aside to my Democratic friends that we're going to hopefully stop. Second, a federal grand jury in Greenville, North Carolina, where I lived, indicted 3 individuals who are conspiring to commit wire and mail fraud for a heroin and fentanyl distribution ring in eastern North Carolina. Again, fraud occurs when money flows freely. It's not just balloons for everybody. It's actual real things that happen. Lastly, a woman in Charlotte was pleaded guilty of $1 million in unemployment insurance fraud by defrauding the state of Arizona. These are real things, and I commend you guys for the work that you've done. I attack us for not actually attacking this earlier. $350 million in North Carolina. And so we all know it's what we're talking about. We're not here to tell stories of how we helped it. We did. We can all tell those stories because it was absolutely needed. I just find it interesting that my colleagues across the aisle are happy to say that President Trump's administration didn't put in fraud committee while they blame him for everything else, but then take credit for all the work that Biden did. So I think that's kind of interesting. So let me just ask a few questions as it is. Mr. Gadara, what percentage of your workforce is back to work?
Everyone.
Everybody's back to work.
Well, we were never not out of work.
Okay.
No, we've been working all the time.
Excellent, excellent. I'm really glad to hear this. I asked this to Mr. Turner and also again to Mr. Dara. Does the GAO and the Department of Labor know to the extent in which international cybercrime rings and foreign actors were involved in targeting state systems at all? Do we have any information about what happened against with cybercrime international figures for fraud for this?
I think that question could best be answered by Mr. Horowitz and Mr. Turner.
Okay, please do.
Yes, it's equally spread, well, equally may be the wrong word, but it's spread throughout on the international side as well as domestic.
Yeah, we've seen fraud occurring overseas. Secret Service has testified about this, about breaking up various rings in Nigeria, Russia, China, for example.
Right, and I think it's, and I'll just kind of end with this because I don't want to beat a dead horse. We all know that this fraud occurred, and we all know that we've not done our job as members of Congress in providing oversight. You know, it just seems to be an action that one side of this body just is happy to flow the funds. And yes, our American people need it. But for those of us who've actually run businesses, there has to be accountability as to where our money goes. This isn't our money. This is the taxpayers' money. And if we don't know where it goes and where it should not be going, then we're out of business. And this Congress, my God, look at our debt, which some people don't believe exists. We would be out of business, absolutely, if we did not commit to making sure that our money is well spent and that criminals are put back. And let me just ask a real quick question, if you just 2 seconds, if you will, Mr. Chair. Mr. Horowitz, can you expand on the suggestion to increase the penalties for these individuals?
Yes, so what we've actually asked for is increasing the statute of limitations from 5 years to 10 years. The challenge for us, and I know for Department of Labor IG, is we're already 3 years since the beginning of the benefits going out. We've got a lot of work still to do.
Right.
So if it runs out in 2025, for some cases, that's going to be a problem. We're going to need the 10 years. Congress did this last year, bipartisan basis, extended it for the 2 big SBA programs, Paycheck Protection Program, Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. They should do the same here.
Well, thank you. I hope that that's a bipartisan effort, that we can understand that fraud does occur and that we need to enable you guys to actually investigate it and put those criminals behind bars. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
I want to thank the representative, but I also want to tack on to his points in regards to the unemployment numbers we've heard numerous times. It's also important to know the fact that workforce participation is currently at 62.3%, which is the lowest since Jimmy Carter was president.